sack.
I will do the give it just a second. Get the 15 seconds, get the jitters out. There we go.
You
All
ready?
right. So
Yeah.
I would tell them right out the first 30 seconds. All right. So, all right, guys, welcome to Third and Teal Thursdays. I'm your host, Isaiah Michelli. We are connected again to the This Curtis podcast network with this AFC South show. Forgot to shout them out last time. We got sister channels now. We got Unstabled. We got Texan, that real Texas team. Titans takeaways. They're all trash. This is the only one you need to watch. But
Amen.
I got to shout them out. They're part of the channel. But of course, we got the main channel, this AFC South show. With that being said, to my right on the screen, Trevor Downs, just like last week, second time on the show. How we feeling today?
Hey, man, we're feeling great. It's back with Duval football, baby.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Got Mr. Talk, Eric. He's having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're hoping to get him in as soon as possible. And we got Mr. Randy, Jaguars _news on Instagram. The man has a face, and we have now all seen it. And how's it going, Randy?
It's good to be here, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk football. Definitely excited to talk Jaguars. I'm ready.
Nothing better. And nothing better when it comes to football. You put Jaguars in front of it, and I'm here for it every time.
Face
review. Yeah, woo woo. So we're gonna debut the intro this week. Intro got fucked up, so we'll do it next week. Thanks for coming out, you guys. If you're watching, again, like and subscribe. We are here. We will be going once a week for now, subject to change based on the boys and how we're feeling. If we can start recording more than once a week. Today we're gonna be talking a little bit about the draft. Our biggest positions in need. A couple players at each position. We might be overlapping a little bit, so there might be some talking, but yeah, what do we you want to kick us off, Trevor? What's your number one position in need? Or you can start at number 3. Do you want to start at least and then most, or what's your plan?
Hey, hold on. I got to pause for a second before we jump into draft needs.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
You know what's coming. I'm not letting you off the hook. And if anybody wants episode 1, they're not letting you off the hook either. I've got to hear the defense of Press Taylor, because Lord knows if you make anyone a believer other than yourself, you are in the wrong profession. You need to be a lawyer. So please go for it.
I didn't not want to do it. I forgot about it, honestly. I literally was like trying to make dinner plans earlier, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got something to fucking do after work today. It's been rough at work. So Press Taylor. All right. I am no Press Taylor fan. Do not be mistaken. But the hate that Press Taylor receives is not the correct hate that should be received by Press Taylor for the way he calls games. You can shake your head, Jags fans. I know you're at home like, fuck this guy. That's fine. I don't care. Press Taylor did what any offensive coordinator would have done with the absolute shit show of an offensive line that we had in front of him, in front of Trevor Lawrence. He adjusted. He ran screens. He ran out routes at 5 yards. He ran more screens. Trevor Lawrence had the least amount of time to throw in the league, and when he had the most time, like when he had good time, he was playing great. We were dialing stuff up downfield. He still had plenty of stuff dialed up downfield. Let's not forget that Calvin Ridley dropped 4 touchdown passes over 30 yards down the field. Let's not forget that. We get those. Trevor's got 27, 28 touchdowns on the season, an extra 120 yards, and Ridley's up at 1,200. We're not so mad. Zay Jones dropped 2 in the end zone. Ridley also had the short ones I think he dropped 2 short ones in the end zone. Christian Kirk dropped 1 in the end zone. We had a lot of points left on the field. The runs up the middle. Whatever, it is what it is. Unfortunately, we got on the goal line. Trevor Lawrence called his own number a couple of times. It worked a couple of times. It didn't work a couple of times. My thing with Press Taylor is I think he did what any offensive coordinator would have done with that terrible, abysmal center and center of the line that we had. We also were missing Cam Robinson for the first little bit. With that being said, while he was playing tackle, Walker Little looked pretty damn good. He was ranked in the top 5 of tackles for the first 4 games of efficiency. No sacks allowed. And then he had the one game where they pushed him back on top of Trevor's ankle. Trevor Lawrence hurt his knee. So they kind of crippled the offense a little bit. He looked decent coming out there and playing. He still moved good against the Saints, but then he hurt his shoulder and then he hurt his ankle. Not to mention something nobody talks about and everybody ignores when I say Press Taylor's been with Doug for like 60 years at this point. They have the same scheme. In 2022, no one knew that Press Taylor was calling the second half. No one knew that until they came out and said that. And people were like, oh, that's just Doug trying to cover up for his boy. Bro, Trevor Lawrence is in interviews saying that Press Taylor was calling the second half of all of those comeback wins that we had. Press Taylor knows how to call an offense. Press Taylor adjusted to how our offensive line was playing. Again, no Press Taylor fan. I'm not saying that we could not upgrade at that, but if they bring in another offensive coordinator, they're not bringing in a different scheme. They're just bringing in another offensive coordinator because it's Doug Peterson's scheme. At the end of the day, he played the exact same way with the Eagles. He learned from Andy Reid. He's just not quite as crafty as Andy Reid. Press Taylor thought up the Philly special, so you can't be mad at Press Taylor. He thought up the Philly special. I mean, come on, iconic. But again, Press Taylor's scheme is Doug Peterson's scheme. There is no difference between their play calling besides we won more games last year with Press Taylor calling plays than we did with Doug Peterson. So at the end of the day, people can say what they want. It's the same scheme. Doug raised Doug basically breastfed Press Taylor into the role. He's been with them for, again, like 60 years now. They're basically married. I mean, in my opinion, they have the same scheme. No one knew the difference between play calling. They were just thought, oh, we miraculously adjusted at halftime and we're better now. Again, not a great, people were like, oh, we don't look good. Bro, we dropped 31 on the Colts in week 1 and we didn't look good. Literally all that happened throughout the season, we just kept losing more players and Trevor kept getting more hurt and we had to keep on throwing more screens. There was one point in time where Trevor Lawrence had negative yards compared to air yards completed because Calvin Ridley runs backwards every time he catches the football. Zay Jones runs backwards. Evan Ingram fights for extra yards and then gets pushed out of bounds backwards. Like, I get it. I get the hate for Press Taylor. I understand it. But in my opinion, we don't have anything different by bringing another offensive coordinator because Doug is an offensive coach and his scheme will prevail. And I think his scheme is what has prevailed the past 2 years. That's my defense. Feel free to say what you'd like and argue with that, or if you agree, or you can see a little bit more of my point, whatever it is. But that's my defense of Press Taylor. Again, not saying we can't upgrade. I just don't know that switching offensive coordinator changes any problems that we have because Doug Peterson, at the end of the day, always has the veto power and always runs the show. That's my thing.
I agree with you about the veto power and Peterson being an overall command. I agree with all that. I just have a hard time believing that he really did adjust well. I think his adjustments, the fact that, first of all, you're right, the runs up the guts and the screens, all those things take a little bit more time than we had. And how many times of flat out failure do you have to watch before you realize, even though it may not be his fault that our offensive line is garbage, it's his fault that he kept calling the plays that ran to their weaknesses. That is his fault. That is a complete lack of adjustment on his part. I'm not saying there was too much he could do with the player base that we have. What I am saying is there are certain plays we found success with. There were schemes we found success with. Rolling Trevor out of the pocket, we found a lot of success with that.
And we also found him hurt a couple times, though.
That's how you're right. You're right. There's a risk reward there. But then when I think about, trust me, I prepared for this a little bit because I was like, well, before we talked about it, I was like, well, what would I find to be a good adjustment by a coordinator? Look at his brother's team, the Bengals. They lost their star quarterback for the entire season. Their throw patterns were different. They called different play schemes, blocking schemes, and run designs to free up Jake Browning for a little bit more time because he's not the quick passer that Joe Burrow is. He's not the mobile quarterback that Joe Burrow is. He's mobile and he's quick, but he's not Joe Burrow quick and fast. Okay? They made the adjustments to who was on the field, and Jake Browning played like an elite level quarterback did because his coordinator catered to him and catered to the team that was on the field because everyone knows the offensive line in Cincy is trash. Everybody knows that. So that's not – you can't say at that point, you can't say, oh, it's just our offensive line's bad and theirs isn't. Our offensive line is just as bad as theirs. Actually, ours is probably a little bit stronger than theirs is.
Ours is much worse than theirs was last year.
Well,
in my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think ours gets exposed because of our repetitive play call. I mean, it's like we've talked about last week. Every time we get a set of first downs, we make it to third down by wasting one run up the gut every time.
Every time.
A run up the gut. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't try to establish the run, but establish the run away from the offensive line that we know is piss poor at best. Or at least run to Anton Harrison's side. Run the numbers. Run to the side where we have promise. Run where we have hope. Do things that you are paid to do. And unfortunately, exactly what you said about him being married to Doug Peterson was Doug Peterson's exact downfall in Philadelphia. That's exactly why he is not the coach of Philadelphia. I mean, you think about it, it's hard. You would be hard-pressed to sell me on why the Super Bowl winning coach is fired. He's fired because he won't move past a coordinator that does not know how to adapt and overcome your roster. And don't get me wrong, it's not the scheme that I think is the problem. You've seen it. The plays are there. We just don't have the guys to make them in most of those cases. So that being said, that is where you're paid a lot of money to figure out what we can make. That is your whole job. Your whole job as an offensive coordinator and your offensive coordinating staff, like your whole offensive staff, you guys collectively are responsible for what we put on the field in representation of Duval offense. And unfortunately, we showed very little to absolutely none of it. And that being said, I also think that's exactly why Trevor got hurt. We keep calling plays to the weak side. Why are we rolling Trevor to the left? He's a right-handed quarterback. First of all, you're making it where they have to hold protection longer. Let's just point that out. They have to hold protection longer, which is weak point. If we're going to roll him out to the right. Not only is Anton Harrison over there our biggest promise of our whole line last year, in my opinion, until Ezra Cleveland showed up. Roll him to our strong side. He can get the ball out faster, get better throws, short dump completions, whatever it may be. He's got more time. But for some reason, it was always a roll to the left. It was always a run to the left up the gut. It was always right there at the weakest part of our line. And at that point, you just got to ask yourself, maybe it's not exactly the scheme, it's the direction. And at that point, make the change. You're the coordinator. That's your job. And in this whole time, he's just watching it happen. He's watching us piss away games because he refuses to make those subtle changes. I'm not saying that a complete overhaul is what we need necessarily on our coaching staff offensively. I just think a little change of perspective and some common sense would go a long way in that room, because common sense tells us don't run at the weak links, and that's what we seem to do every time.
So you would say that you would prefer to run to the right side over the left side?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I 100% trust Cam Robinson run blocking more than Anton Harrison.
But that's like you said, though. I agree with you there, but Cam Robinson was missing most of the year.
Well, he's missing 4 games.
We come back. Well, that's where, he comes back, but he's injured. He's not.
No, he was healthy when he came back.
He's still
Cam Robinson was healthy. I mean, as far as the reports go, he was fully healthy when he came back, and he said he was. If he was hurt, I don't know. But I will say, especially once we brought in Ezra Cleveland, the left side of the line was our best side of the line. It's just the fact that we have a terrible center who we couldn't run inside, outside, backwards without him already being 10 yards in the backfield and Trevor and ETN's lap. And that was like we talked about last week, is Tank Bigsby gets all this hate, but nobody talks about that with ATM whenever, it was the same thing. He's getting hit in the backfield every play. We're getting mad at Tank Bigsby for not being able to force missed tackles in the backfield, but different conversation. But I get what you're saying, and I understand that. I understand it both ways. Like I said, not a Press Taylor fan. My thing just is I think he made the necessary adjustments for what we were seeing personally. I think another thing, too, that we have to think about is how many times have we seen Trevor leave the pocket to his left? Even whenever he's getting pressured, even when he's not getting pressured. Trevor Lawrence likes to move to the left. We saw it last year against Washington on that last play of the game whenever he rolled out to the left and tried to throw a bomb down the field to Christian Kirk. He likes to roll out to the left. That is his preferred side, in my opinion. I think he should be more comfortable to the right. There are times when he rolls out to the right, but he tends to like to go left whenever he gets in trouble. I don't know why. I don't think that's anything they're teaching him, because if Schottenheimer's worth anything, or is it? No, it's not Schottenheimer still, is it? Who's the QB coach? No, Shotty was there with Urban, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was with Urban, but I don't think we still have him.
Anyways, we got Doug Peterson, we got Press Taylor, we got our quarterbacks coach. all these guys played quarterback. There's no way you can convince me they're telling him to go right whenever he gets in trouble, or left. I'm sorry. I think that a lot of it is on the personnel. I think that, you bring up the Bengals, but the thing is, Bengals, we might have the 27th and Bengals might have the 26th line, but Bengals have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase. They have two guys that are can be considered number ones on the right team. Jamar Chase is a top 3, top 5, receiver in the league. Whereas we have our number one is Christian Kirk, who's maybe considered a top 16, 20 wide receiver. I mean, you put him outside the numbers, he drops to like 32 to 40, in my opinion. Yeah. That's kind of one of the things you got to look at too, is like, yeah, sure. But Burrow gets the ball out quick. Yeah. Browning was able to kind of move in the pocket and make things happen. I get what you're saying. And I do agree that, they bring that in, but I just think that kind of my point is, I think he made the adjustments. Were they the right adjustments? Maybe not. But, with what we had, I think he did what he could. And I think he did what Doug would allow him to do. Because I don't think anybody should fool themselves and act like Doug Peterson wasn't drawing up the scheme every single week with Press Taylor as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And again, because I think they have I think if Doug Peterson calls him, maybe we win one more game. But I think that they have the same downfalls that each other have. And then with the Eagles take, he wanted Press Taylor to come in and do it. That was absolutely part of it. But also, too, the front office was not letting him make decisions. And that might be, honestly, as we've seen with the last draft class, that might be the better option, because I think Brenton Strange was a Doug guy. Anton Harrison, I think he was a need, but I think the offensive line coach had more say in that. I think he was a great pick. If he was he might have been a Doug guy. Doug might have been pounding the table for him, whatever it is. Again, I think that, this year, I think Balky's going to take a little more control in the draft and let his scouts actually do their thing and him kind of do that. But I think that Doug is just as much to blame as Press Taylor. But I can see it both ways. I understand both arguments. I just think for me personally, that's how I see it. And I definitely understand the other side of it too, though, because I think there were plenty of times I was yelling about how we're running up the middle again, or how we're doing this, or how we're doing that, definitely. But, again, it's just one of those things where, was there really anything else we could do? Because, I can't really name what our strengths were last year.
No.
ETN would have an outside run, but then Brandon Sheriff will get blown up by Denico Autry or any other defensive lineman in the league. And then, because he's playing hurt on a hurt ankle or a torn core muscle or whatever the excuse is this year, this week. Yeah. And, it's like he's getting blown up. Anton Harrison's young. He's playing against dudes like Chris Jones. He's playing against dudes, freaking Nick Bosa, and even Joey and Bosa and Khalil Mack. He's playing against like top tier pass rushers every week as a rookie. He played really well. I like him, but he's still going to get beat on outside zones and different things by these guys that are, maybe not more athletic, because he's super athletic, but I just can't really name anything that we had a real strength in last year for more than maybe a game or two. There was nothing that we had like a consistent season thing where we consistently were good at something all year. And then there were some games like, the Colts game when we beat the shit out of them. We were running outside. Great. We were doing outside runs. ETN had had the Wildcat play. We were getting good stuff, but I think that our strengths were 5-yard outs and slant routes. We really didn't have any time to let Trevor sit back. And when we did, he'd put a ball, within arm's reach, hit both hands, and it's a drop, it's like, but again, like I said, I wouldn't mind replacing Press Taylor. I just don't think that I think he gets too much hate for how much he could actually control, in my opinion. Any other points before we get into this draft talk, boys?
No, that was. I'll give it to you. I agree. I see Eric put it in the chat. I'd agree that the defense wasn't that bad. I'll give you that. Yeah. The defensive Press Taylor. I do want to make clear though. I was never put all the blame on Press Taylor guy. I've never been that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do think though, like we said, it comes to a point where you've gotta do something. What that something may be, I'm not sure, but that's why you make millions and I don't. That's at that point, that is what your job is, and our strengths were not there. We had many glaring weaknesses. I think the biggest thing for me was to watch that Carolina game. That game should have been a way bigger blowout than it was.
Oh yeah.
For me personally, I mean, they're one of the worst defensive and offensive showings in the league at the time. They're not good on either side of the ball. They're absolutely horrid at best. And we put up I think 1 touchdown, maybe 2 with ETN, and then the rest were all field goals. Like,
I know ETN had the 61-yarder.
Yeah,
and I think did Beathard throw a touchdown to Ridley?
No, Beathard didn't. I don't think Beathard threw a touchdown the whole game. Which is, I think, another reason why we went out and got Mac Jones. I think that was another nail in the coffin for Beathard's career as our backup because, I mean, at what point can we put you in and trust you with a game? Like, we have to trust. Like, don't get me wrong, he got screwed on the Cincy game, but every other time he made a showing, he never really got our offense moving. He didn't seem like he was in place there whatsoever. He just wasn't. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying expect a backup to come in and play like the starter, because if he was that caliber, he would be that guy, and I understand that. But, again, we put you in against the worst team in the league, and they still took advantage of you. Like, you were getting confused by simple coverages and reads. Like, But to move on from that, I'll just say, I mean, credit to you. That was not as bad as I thought it was going to be for Press Taylor, because it's hard to find good points for Press Taylor.
Hey, I know football. What were you going to say, Randy? Did you pull up the stats for the Carolina game?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We didn't score a touchdown till the third quarter. No touchdown by CJ. It was 17 of 24 for 170-something yards. 2 touchdowns by ETN. The one 60-plus yard and then a one up the middle touchdown. And that was it. Another field goal in the fourth quarter. That was it. We definitely should have put a lot more on the Panthers.
We had no offense.
Nothing.
It was awful.
Then we got jackass John Shipley trying to argue with me on Twitter about how, CJ Beathard, he's better than Mac Jones. That's such a stupid move. I'm like, oh no, we wasted a 6th-round pick, or we've never gotten a good player out of in the past 20 years. Like, oh no, we got a guy who was just starting for a team where CJ's never even had the opportunity. Like, you're
right.
He's like, oh, he's just as efficient. Look at these numbers. He's better. And I'm like, you're comparing 500 passes to 1,300 passes. Like, yeah. Okay. But let's get into this draft talk. Trevor, you want to go first?
Yep, sure.
Give me your position out of the 3 that is your lowest position in need. Let's start there.
Lowest position of need for me now has to be interior D-line.
Okay.
Mainly because of the Eric Armstead signing. I mean, how can I be fearful for that tightening of the interior now? I will say, though, it is still very much of need, because not only do we need good rotational pieces, which I do think, if I'm not mistaken, we just signed a piece from the Titans, an old Titan.
Travis Gibson.
Yeah, Travis Gibson. So I'm happy with that. I think, though, that Brian Nielsen, if I'm not mistaken, in Atlanta, they had quite a bit of 4-3 looks, too, where they came out 4-3 set. And if we run in 4-3 set, we need another actual, hold the line guy, not a rotational guy. So that's why, for me, interior D-line, defensive tackle, some of that nature is still an of need point. I have 2 guys labeled down for these positions. And honestly, I don't see us getting one of them unless we did put our first rounder on it. But I had this picked out before the signing of Eric. So I'll start with him first, and it's Braden Fisk. I have to go Braden Fisk because Braden Fisk is an athletic freak for his size. He's a mountain of a man, and I think that people look past him when they look at the Patrick Paytons and stuff of that Florida State D-line, and they see what they were doing on the edges. But the only reason that edge was possible is because Braden Fisk is pushing that interior in. I mean, Braden Fisk is demolishing that interior while our edge rushers from Florida State are killing it in the backfield. So I think the only way we see Braden Fisk is if we take him at 17, which at this point in time I would not. I would just say that it would be nice to still see him. And I'd have to say my second would be Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy's just a wall of a player. Okay, he does a lot of things good, in my opinion. I don't think, to me, he's going to be the next, Calais Campbell or anything, but he does a lot of things good. And that would be enough for me. Do you want to go in an order? Or would you like me to just go through all of them now? My next position?
I mean, if you guys want, we can each do, kind of our third level position of need for us. And then we can go on to second level. And then primetime territory. We can definitely do that. Yeah, Randy, if you want to go or I can go, is either way, man.
Funny enough, my third one was D-line as well, but mostly the defensive tackle position. And after the Armstead, I felt more confident, but I'm not totally sold on Hamilton. I know he was injured during the season, and I know he was dealing with some stuff, and I hope he comes back and has a great year. But I would love to bring in somebody like Brandon Fisk. He was on my list. And then also, I'm always going to butcher this name. Oh, the dude from Iowa. Or not Iowa. Illinois.
Let me see. D-tackle?
Yeah, Jerzon Newton. Last name's Newton. But I have seen him play a lot because I've been checking out highlights. I mean, it's hard to look at people over highlights. And he's strong. He is very strong. And that's what we need because I feel like, again, with Hamilton, not to keep knocking on him, but, and again, like I said, with the injury, I haven't seen that much push with him. After that, who did we have at D tackle? Gotsis. He wasn't doing anything for us. Ledbetter. I think that's fun. Ledbetter's cool. I think we need another young stud to put right next to Armstead. And who else with Armstead? Who else is a great mentor than that man right there? So I think D tackle is definitely my third on the list. And honestly, I would be happy if we can get any of that. And I saw in the chat Darius Robinson. That would be great. But I know he's kind of an edge guy. But I think Brandon Fisk is going to be my number one pick if we can. Not number one pick in the draft, but number one pick on defensive tackle position. And if he could slip down to the second, I've seen him slip down to the third round. But those are mock drafts. What do we know, you know? So
Very
I
rare.
think, yeah, I think I'm with
let's
Trevor on
pick
this
the
one.
Florida State guy. Man. No.
Hey, you see him on tape. You see him
he's
at
a beast,
combine. Dude. He's nasty.
Yeah, he's solid. I mean, for that speed at that size, he's definitely pushing, dude.
I mean, his last game with Louisville, I think he had like a 3-sack game. He was demolishing that defensive or O line.
Went nuts.
And he was going crazy. But
so Eric put his in the chat, by the way. Like he put his whole 3. So
okay. Yeah, Darius Robinson from Mizzou.
Yep.
Jerzon Newton from Illinois. And do you have a third one, Eric? Is that your like now like least concerning position? Out of the 3, you're good, dude. Thanks for sticking in, man, helping us out, even though you got those tech diff, man. That means a lot.
Hey, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Yeah.
I want to clarify this. I butcher names so bad.
Oh, you're good, dude.
Even if they're normal names, I'll butcher them.
That's like what? Ruke Oro, like from Clemson. Like I just kind of try, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah, I'd say for me, honestly, interior defensive line is definitely a position of need for me, but I'm kind of going against the grain on this one, and this could be somebody else's position, but I think this is now getting overlooked because of the Mitch Morse signing. I think center should not be getting any. I think it should be getting less priority. Originally, center was like I would have taken Jackson or Powers Johnson. I would have taken him at 17 prior to the Mitch Morse signing. Now, I think that'd be great, but you don't want to draft a guy like that who's going to be a generational center, in my opinion. You don't want to draft him at 17 and then have him sit behind a vet for 2 years. While you would love to, that's 2 years of his contract and his rookie contract that you're wasting behind somebody that he could probably start over. Now, depending on how the contract is structured, we could potentially let Morse go after next year. Because I know we did it. I mean, Balky's been structuring these contracts pretty good. I like these Balky contracts. Tavondre Sweat from Texas as well. Yes, Eric, I like Tavondre Sweat a lot. I think, me personally, though, center is still on there for me. Now that we have signed Mitch Morse, I've still got Powers Johnson as my number one. You can't not have him as your number one. If we somehow, like if he fell to the second round, like bulky, whatever you have to do to move up and draft him. I don't care at that point. But I could easily see us getting like Zach Frazier at the end of the second round, early third round potentially, or like Cedric Van Pran, which really, like, if you look at it, I mean, Van Pran is the lowest rated at an 85 rating, according to Draft Buzz. Zach Frazier's at an 85.7, and I mean Jackson Powers at an 87.4. They're not that far apart. Now, I do think that Jackson Powers Johnson is going to be the best out of all of them. But I mean, if we could get Van Pran or Frazier in and sit them behind, Mitch Morse for a year, or even like, let them play guard a little bit if somebody goes down, just get them that NFL experience. I think those could be great pickups for us. But I think realistically, we're probably going to draft, if we go center, probably Van Pran, or maybe Limner in like the 4th round out of Arkansas. That's what I could see. But that's my probably now least position of concern out of the 3. But still, if it's my top 3, it's pretty concerning.
Yeah, honestly, I'm right there with you. If like a 3A, 3B, it would be my 3B. Center, I'm right there with you. I would grab a center as well.
I think with Mitch Morse, I think that the idea of putting someone of their caliber in these early rounds behind a guy like him, man, I have a hard. It's like you said, it's a struggle there because they could probably start over him, which again could be a good mentorship potential, but at the same time, we're talking about our 3rd and some of us our 4th position of need for us. So I do like the take though on if he's there. If he falls to the 2nd round, I don't care what you got to do, get there and get him. I agree with you there. I just, like I said, I agree with the point of it's hard to draft these guys and make them sit behind them. Sure, we could use them, but I think
Frazier and Van Pran, Van Pran, however you say it, I'm not worried about sitting them for a year. I think they could probably use it. Powers Johnson, though, I think he's the most NFL-ready lineman in the class besides Joey Alt, in my opinion, or Joe Alt. I think that.
Yeah,
I think Powers Johnson is. I think he's ready. Like sitting him behind Morris, the only thing that's going to do is make him bitter. Those other guys, I think, because Van Pran is he's a little small. I say he's a little small. He's 298. I mean, he's a big dude. He's 6'4", but he could probably gain a little bit of muscle sitting behind Morse. Morse is a huge road grader. I think he could learn a lot from him. And also, too, Morse's contract is structured to where we could potentially keep him next year, even if somebody's starting over him, and he could still be in a mentorship role. And that gives the guys time to sit behind a real. I mean, he's a true professional. Dude's been doing it for a long time at a high level. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, Powers Johnson, you can't take him at 17 now that we've got Morse. But if you get one of those other guys, or if he makes it to the 2nd round, you got to make a move and make it happen, in my opinion. But let's kick it around the table again. What do we, Trevor? You can start us off again. Position of need number 2.
Position of need number 2 is going to be wide receiver for me.
Yep, absolutely.
I think I've got 3 guys penciled down here, and I've got my reasons why. And I'll start to say the first guy I've got down. Do not think he falls this low. If he does, absolutely pull the trigger, and that's Romeo Dunze. I think that's a given. His football IQ is just off the charts. I mean, the guy knows when to use what moves, and his bag of tricks seems to be endless in most scenarios. I mean, he's got speed, he's got the precision, he's got the cut. I will say though, he reminds me a lot of Calvin, unfortunately. And the reason I say that is because there are times where the layups for him are not there. Like the layups are just not, but he's dunking on 6'7" centers in reference. You know what I mean? Like he's making the contested, and he's definitely burning man press. Just again, there's been a couple times where it should have been a layup and he just doesn't have it. And then next I go Keon Coleman. I go Keon Coleman for a couple of reasons because I am a Florida State fan, so I watched him very closely. And I don't pick Keon Coleman here because of bias. I pick him because I think he's just a freak of nature. Like the guy goes up and he makes catches that you're like, how? I remember specifically multiple times where I didn't even see him catch the ball over at least 2 to 3 DBs in his area. I didn't even see him catch the ball. He's got it and has already gone 10 yards plus, And I think another thing is too is he can be exactly what Calvin was. And that's the only reason we got some of the big underneath plays with Kirk was that attention grabber. Because Keon is big. Keon's a big receiver, He's not as big as Johnny Wilson on his other side in Florida State was, but he's still big. And then my third is Brian Thomas Jr. I think his release is very special. His release is up there with some of the best, and his speed, dude's just an absolute burner. I mean, it's hard pressed for me to go ahead and pass on him just for those reasons alone. So those are my three for my second position of need, wide receiver.
So let me ask you something, because I don't see a Dunze falling to us. What would you be willing to give up to get into the top 10 picks to pick him? Because I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
I got to be completely honest with you, man. I don't think that with the price it would cost, I would.
Okay.
I think the price that it would cost us to get into the top 10. I think Balky has done a good job this year. And it's like we were just mentioning, the structuring of contracts and all the things we were talking about. I think that, we're in a strong position as long as this draft goes well. So that being said, I would not blow the draft with an overzealous or super aggressive move such as that to get into the top 10 for Romeo Dunze when there are plenty of good receivers in this draft. It's probably one of the most loaded receiver drafts in recent history. And then, you look at, I would replace Romeo with Xavier Leggett, I mean, it's funny because Eric put that down there, but we were just talking before the show about how I like Xavier Leggett. And in the mock draft I did today, Xavier Leggett was on my board. So that being said, I mean, there are plenty of guys for me that take him in his place.
Okay. What about you, Randy? What you got?
I'm going to have to piggyback on that. I'm definitely going wide receiver as well.
Okay.
I pretty much agree with everybody Trevor said. So I'm going to throw out a few names out there as well who's on my radar. And I'm going to say this one strictly based off the combine. Xavier Worthy, that 4.21 record-breaking speed. That would be nice to have. And there's one that I saw Eric brought up, and I promise you this is not going to be a biased FSU fan. Johnny Wilson, and I've said this to you before. Nothing. I've said this to you before. Johnny Wilson, that 6'6", who ran a 4.5, would be crazy on the side. Think about it. Out of nowhere, that end zone corner shot, that's 6'6". Who's defending him?
He's gotten hurt a lot, though, hasn't he?
He was dinged up at best, I'd say.
Yeah, that last season, he was definitely a little dinged up. The season before that, he was killing it. Before Keon came in, shout out to Keon. I would pick him up. And I'm going to steal this from you, Isaiah. Ricky Parcel, or however you say it.
Yeah,
Pearsall. That dude, as much as I hate to say this as a null, he will light up this offense. He's got 4.41 speed, 6'1", quick, and like you said, he's got sticky hands. I've seen him light up Florida State and other teams. I would not be mad at all to pick him up. And I do have a question for you guys. And I know you said you wouldn't want to trade up for somebody like Rome. And this is just a fun question. If Marvin Harrison Jr. was at like 5, I don't remember who's at 5. Would you try?
So if he's at 5, like he's getting picked because that's the Chargers.
That is the Chargers. He is going.
And they literally, so their wide receiver core right now is Jalen Guyton.
Yeah, he's gone.
And some other guy that doesn't exist. Like if Neighbor, like whoever's available there, Neighbors or Harrison, they're going to the Chargers. And I honestly think Neighbors might be better than Harrison, in my opinion.
I've been seeing that debate a lot, and I don't mind that debate at all. I don't mind it at all. But yes, wide receiver 2, I'm right there with you. Because I personally don't think Gabe Davis is a wide receiver 1. Could he prove me wrong? I hope so.
Bro, that dude's 6'5" and 7 quarters. That dude looks huge next to Trevor.
He looks huge.
That video they put out, he looks like he's 6'4".
I mean, if he comes out and pulls the moves, man, he can be. He's got the size.
That's what I'm saying. I hope he proves me wrong. Hope he has 1,000-yard season with 10 touchdowns, whatever. But I would still go wide receiver in the first or second round. I need that 1 or 2.
Okay. Yeah, let's go Taj, let's see. Johnny Wilson at FSU for Eric. Taj Washington out of SoCal, Southern California. Okay, he's like Tyreek Hill. Okay, I can see that. I know I like the Tyreek Hill comparison. I like Xavier Worthy with that because he's just so damn fast. But definitely, I'll have to look more into Taj Washington. I'm actually not really familiar with his game to not be a meme, but just be honest. And Xavier Leggett, I definitely like the Xavier Leggett pick. 6'1", 221, running the 4.39. That's crazy. Like dude's huge. With that being said, I mean, I'm actually going to be going against the grain on this one. I am going cornerback as our number 2 concern. Don't worry, wide receiver is coming, but not yet.
Yeah, I have
my thing is, like I said earlier before the show, I think there are a lot of cornerback 2s, which is really what we're drafting for, honestly, unless they just come in and they're better than Tyson and it is what it is. I think realistically we're drafting for cornerback 2. I think there's a lot of them. Cooper DeJean might fall to 48. There's some guys that might fall out of the first round and out of the early second to us at 48, or we might be able to move up for them. So I'm going number 2 there. I think there's a lot of corners in this draft. I think the wide receiver class is deep, but not deep for what we're looking for in a sense. I don't think that there's a bunch of guys who can come in and be our X wide receiver day 1 in the second and third and fourth round. I think there's guys that could come in and be our cornerback 2 in the second or third round, or could develop for a year. Because I trust Ronald Darby at cornerback 2 a lot more than I trust Gabe Davis as wide receiver 1, in my opinion. That's one thing I'm putting on there too. If we didn't sign Darby, I'd be 100% on the cornerback at 17 train. I think I'm more on the cornerback at 48 train right now, unless we make some moves to move up or move back or whatever it is to get some more picks. And that is purely why I think that at the cornerback position currently for me, I know you guys are about to talk about this, so I'm sure I'm going to take plenty of them from you guys. Cornerbacks for me, realistically, with where I am saying that I would like to pick somebody, I can see Kamari Lassiter. He's a little slower. I think he's a little more scrappy. I hate Georgia. God damn, I hate Georgia. But I think he's pretty scrappy and he sticks to people pretty well for a guy who ran a 4.58. He's 6 foot tall. He's 186 pounds. By the season, he's probably sitting at 195, 200. I think he's solid. He'd probably be my lower on the list one. Cooper DeJean, I think if he makes it to 48, you can't not pick him. Elephant in the room, he's a white corner. Okay. The dude is 200 pounds. He's going to make a great free safety for us. No kidding, but him behind Ronald Darby for a year would be awesome. He's not as fast as what we've been moving to. Cause that's one thing I've definitely noticed. We've been moving to a lot of speed this offseason. We signed a lot of guys running 4.3s. But I think that DeJean, he is that good. Honestly, he is a hybrid safety corner, in my opinion. He tackles well. He's got great burst. He's got great vision. He always seems to be in the right place. And at 6 foot tall, 203 pounds, he's laying the boom as a corner. He's not going to be Jalen Ramsey or anything, but I think he could be a solid cornerback 2, potentially cornerback 1, depending on how much that Tyson Campbell decides to demand when it's his time to get a contract, if we decide to re-sign him and bring it back.
You better start playing some ball then.
I better start playing some ball. I 100% agree. But some other guys I've been looking at, this would be if we did decide to go, which I wouldn't be mad if we went corner at 17. Nate Wiggins for me, I think something that strikes me with him is that, he's 6'1", ran a 4.28. He's just light. He's really light in the ass. He's a willing tackler. Like, he still goes for tackles, but he's got his moments where he's just not big. And we're coming to the NFL, and like, we've got these rookie wide receivers and veteran wide receivers that are 205, 216, 220 pounds that are, they're running, sure, they're running 0.15 slower, but they're running over him if he gets in the way. I do like Nate Wiggins. I think he's very athletic. I think at 17, he wouldn't be a bad choice. I think if like somebody like Nate Wiggins, I think we move back and pick up another third or fourth, in my opinion, or at least like something for next year. But I wouldn't mind having him. And I think those would be my three, probably in order from like least to highest. Honorable mention, DJ James out of Auburn. He's another guy that's a little light, but he's really athletic, 6 foot tall. I could see that being an interesting pickup for us. I know that now the show begins. All the corners, the most important position, whatever. No, I'm kidding. You guys got it. What you got, Trev?
Hey man, listen. I'm going to say this, okay? And that's the main reason I wore this jersey today, other than the fact that I gave him a lot of love last week, Jalen Ramsey. The best version of our team in recent history was when he was heading our defense, and there's no doubt about it. You can't convince me otherwise. I don't care. You could have whatever argument in the world you might want. I'm not listening. Jalen Ramsey led the defense, and we were the strongest we've ever been since our founding. Okay. That being said, I think at 17, there are a few guys that I think could have that capability if put into the right scheme. And I think Ryan Nielsen's the guy to make it. All right. Number one, and I just did this mock draft recently. If he falls to 17, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Okay. Kool-Aid McKinstry is hot glue in a man scheme. Okay. That guy's fast. He can get vertical. He's got leverage. He puts leverage on guys. He presses them up. He's a good clamp guy. And he's from Alabama. And I mean, no school preference, but Alabama guys are always very coachable. Almost always. I mean, the only reason I think we saw Mac Jones not be coachable is mainly because Bill Belichick's a fuck you, I'm going to do it the way I want to kind of guy. So, you take that away. I think Kool-Aid McKinstry is perfect. His IQ, though, man, the guy has always seemed to be in the right spot on that outer side, and even when he came to the inside, you know what I mean? I think another reason I have to put DB as our number one position of need is, like you said in the first pod, I can't necessarily personally agree with the release of Darius Williams. While I do understand it, I understand cap casualty idea, but I think we should have let him play his contract out because we got who? We got Ronald Darby, and we got, Tyson Campbell. And then we've got a guy that's unproven, and that's it. That's all we've got for corners. Okay, that is it. And most teams are running 3 receivers all the time, and sometimes 4 wideout set. Okay, we have nobody. We've got nobody. And we've proven that by putting rookies out there, we get cooked. Okay, don't get me wrong. Monteric Brown, we've talked about him in last week's pod a little bit too. He could be good. He could be really good with more time, but the time to be really good is not when you're facing an offense running a 4 spread. That's not the time for you to try to be good. The time for you to try to be good is in practice behind a guy that knows how to be good already. Okay. And then, so with that being said, I think I agree with you on the Nate Wiggins thing. I come Nate Wiggins second on my list. Would be because he's another man corner. I'm mainly going man corners. That's my reach for this one, mainly because Ryan Nielsen's a man up blitz 'em guy, and we know that. And his schemes seem to be very successful. He also does like to do that man a lot, so you have to be able to do that. But I think Nate Wiggins and Kool-Aid McKinstry's IQ is high enough in football, like football level IQ, that when he throws a mix-up zone coverage in at him to confuse a quarterback, they're smart enough to stay in position and not bite. They know how to do it. They know how to play defense is basically what I'm getting at. And then my third there would be obviously Cooper DeJean as well. He is a zone corner. I think that if, he's there, I do think we could get him later than 17. So I only put him on the list with these guys because DB is my number one position of need. But I think at this point, if Kool-Aid McKinstry and Nate Wiggins aren't there, I got to go, wait on the cornerback and go wide receiver 17. Okay, that's my ultimate idea. Honorable mention, though, for me, I was talking about it earlier, would be Renardo Green. Renardo Green was a sticky corner for Florida State as well. And, I mean, I'm not even trying to be biased. I'm just telling you about a guy that I know knows how to play ball. Okay, this guy is a sticky corner. I mean, and I think that he could fall very easily 3rd, 4th, maybe in 5th round. And if he falls that far and we see him on the board, I do think somebody should be fired if we didn't take him. I mean, at that point, and he's he's a very sticky corner, and he runs fast. He's vertical and horizontal. He knows how to move. I think that's my guys for DB. Another honorable mention for me is Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell is just very football savvy. You can tell he knows the game, but I just think his style of zone and the way that he plays zone, he likes to play drop back some, and he doesn't really like. I don't know. I just noticed that in the clips that I saw when he faked the man coverage to drop to zone, he got burnt because he's not fast enough on the exchange. These receivers just have better releases now, and he just can't stay with them. So that's my take at DB. That's all my guys.
What you got, Randy?
So I'm going cornerback as well. Shocker. There's one main dude I would be so happy if we got him at 17, and I don't think he'll make it. I'm gonna butcher his name. Teron Arnold from Bama.
Terrion Arnold.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to have him. Would you say 4.5 is on the slower side or good for corner?
I would say 4.5 is a very solid for a
That's what I was thinking.
Not blazing, but he's not slow.
No, but he's got some great coverage skill. And I can't remember Ryan's more of a zone or a man. I believe he wants to play more man.
Yeah, he's a very man-up style.
Which is something I've seen Arnold, do great in Bama. I've seen a few of that. And another man, I'm going to piggyback off Ronaldo Green. If we skip out in the first round and we can pick him up second or third, amazing. Nate Wiggins, another great pickup. And there's one I see a lot for some reason. I don't know much about him, and I want to draw his opinion on this. I'm going to butcher it again. Ennis Rankshaw. I've seen that name float around in Jacksonville. Missouri. I've seen that name float around for Jags multiple times, actually. And one more dude that has my main thought on is Kool-Aid as well. I agree with you completely, Trevor. He's super talented. You're right. Anybody from Bama is going to be really teachable. Coming from Saban, who else is? He's one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all, or college coaches of all time. And that's a man you can learn from. And bringing in dudes like that, I think Kool-Aid would be a great pick as well. And one dude that I haven't heard any names on is TJ Tampa out of Iowa State. He's
interesting.
Yes, he's not. I wouldn't take him first round. I wouldn't take him 17. Maybe somehow he slipped to the third. I would not mind picking him up at all. He's kind of growing on me. I just started looking into draft again, and he's one dude that I've noticed that I would not be mad to pick up, but it's got to be a little later in the rounds.
Right.
So I'm pretty much with Trevor on this. I love a lot of the dudes on there. It's a very deep class, I've noticed.
Yes.
A
lot of talent.
Oh my gosh. Wide receiver and this is a great draft to have those needs as a wide receiver and cornerback. So
no kid.
Yeah.
Man, I really got to give Eric credit though for bringing up Johnny Wilson earlier.
That's what I'm saying. I was so glad to see him put that name in there.
Trash.
No, you're crazy. Look, not trash.
When he scores that forced touchdown.
Hey, some coaching. He's going to be
name us the last 6'5" plus receiver to be successful in the NFL.
Don't worry about that.
Look at him. He's typing away. All right, real quick. While he's looking that up, DJ James out of Auburn. I absolutely agree. If we get him in the second, maybe third round. Alabama Terrion Arnold. Hard to go wrong there. And then Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. I like Quinyon Mitchell. I think that the transitions are very teachable. He's a very willing tackler at 195 pounds. It's 6'1", 6 foot tall, running a 4.33.
No way he said Mike Williams. Eric, I know you're laughing behind that screen, man.
Mike Williams is, I think, 6'4". Nice try, Eric. But no, I'm kidding. But no, I mean, that's one of the things, is like I like those picks, Eric, for sure. DJ James, I think he kind of gets slept on coming out of Auburn because Auburn wasn't that great last year, and also because he's not a number 17 guy, but he could be a number 48 or a number 96 guy if he slides between those two numbers.
I got you.
Hey,
I got 5.
Yep. I was about to say that's exactly what I'm
Mike
going
Evans.
with. Good.
Mike Evans.
Okay,
you got him.
Calvin Johnson.
Okay, how long? Calvin Johnson retired in what, 2013?
Yeah, but you got to think though, he's the only guy on the field doing anything. All right, they're all just
exactly.
They're just.
But I'm just saying, like, you get once every 10 years.
Right,
like,
hey, who knows? A.T. Perry, he just started. You never know.
Yeah, you don't know.
He's a 6th-round pick. I was hoping the Jags snag him, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, Isaiah, what do you got?
Not a lot of them. Wide receiver. I'm just flipped. I think that, like I said earlier, I think there's more cornerback 2s than wide receiver 1s in this draft. Me personally, realistically, at 17, I've seen Brian Thomas Jr. a lot. I think he would be my first choice. I think he's a little more physical than a guy like Adonai Mitchell or Adonai, however you say his name. Brian Thomas Jr., I mean, he's my number 1 pick in this because I don't see Rome Odunze falling that far and us being able to pick him up. If I had my absolute choice of the draft, I'm going Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors is the number 1 receiver in the draft, in my opinion, and I think that Rome Odunze is number 2 behind him. I think that Harrison Jr., I think he's great. I think he's really good. He's got the size. He's got the potential speed. Not that we know his official speed because he's not doing any sort of testing. We're just guessing what he runs, what he does. I think that part of the reason that he's opting out is, one, he thinks that his workload he's done at Ohio State has already talked for itself, against some of the worst defenses in college football. And I think that he's not a super polished route runner like people like to give him credit for. I think he just makes up for it with his athleticism and his size, in my opinion. So I think that that's part of it too, is maybe he doesn't want to risk an injury, clearly. I don't think that it helps him in any way because I don't think it'll do anything but call out his weaker route running skills in a non-covered scenario where he's not in pads and has the excuse of getting knocked off his route or having a change based on the coverage. But like I said, Brian Thomas Jr., I think realistically he can be there at 17. I think he will be there at 17. And I don't see us passing him up unless somehow Terrion Arnold fell. I think Terrion Arnold over Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, while wide receiver is my favorite, or is my number 1, I still think that if a player like that falls to us there, you can't pass him up, But number 2, Adonai Mitchell, however you say his name, I don't know, but it's spelled like it's pronounced Adonai. Mitchell out of Texas. Dude, 6'2", ran a 4.34, 205. He's an athletic dude. He's big. He goes up and makes plays. He burnt the shit out of Kool-Aid McKinstry. Terrion Arnold was holding his jersey all the way down the field because he was scared to get burnt by him too. He had 2 touchdowns against Alabama in that duo. Had a great season last year. He could end up being the best wide receiver in this class. I don't think he will be, but I mean, there's a chance that if he can stay healthy with his skill set, he's going to be really good. And I think he's got to be an X wherever he goes, unless somebody drafts him as like a high profile number 2. Yeah, that's it. And then, number 3 pick, I'm probably going with Xavier Leggett. I think that for that size, speed, and just athleticism combination, I don't think you can pass him up. Lad McConkey, he's solid. He's kind of one of those guys that, like, he finds openings. But I think Xavier Leggett running the same speed, he's an inch taller, and he is almost 40 pounds heavier. He's got the body, he's got the size, he can knock people over. He's going to be he kind of reminds me like a Demaryius Thomas, where he's a big body receiver. I think he's going to be able to take DBs on one-on-one down the field in tackling situations and break those and stiff arm people, do what he has to do. I haven't watched too much of him, so I don't know if that's really how he plays his game, but based on what I've seen and based on his body size, that's what he should be doing to corners and safeties. And I just, him over Coleman, my biggest thing with Coleman is I think Coleman plays faster than what he ran in the 40 time. I just don't see a lot of consistency for down the field stretching with Coleman. And that might not be what FSU asked him to do. Because, of course, football is a game of positions and a game of jobs. And if you do your job, you might not get as many yards as other people. I think he was pretty consistent catching, though. I mean, he just has solid hands. But at a 4.61, at 6'3", 6'4", I mean, he to me is more of a red zone target than a pure X that we can put in day one and have be a starter. I think if he falls to 48, I mean, it's hard to say no at 48 to get a nice big body you can put in the end zone and get touchdowns off of. But I mean, honestly, I think Leggett could potentially fall that far and he'd be my pick. If we go wide receiver round 1, Thomas or Adonai Mitchell have to come back to Jacksonville. If we go corner in round 1, Leggett or what's his name? Leggett or Pearsall have to come back to Jacksonville. That's my opinion. I wouldn't take Leggett at 17. Definitely not. I don't think he's polished enough to be there. I think one that doesn't get talked about enough is Javon Baker at a UCF. He's kind of a dark horse for me in the later rounds. Maybe if he's there at 96, I think he could be really solid. I don't think we necessarily have to go wide receiver or corner around 1 and 2, just depending on who's there and what's available. But I could definitely see that. And I think another one that he could be interesting is Devontae Walker out of North Carolina. 6'2", 193 pounds, ran a 4.36 at the combine. I think he could be solid. I think he plays good ball. He's, not really too many great Tar Heels I could think of in recent years, but I mean, he's a guy that we could potentially develop depending on how far he falls. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at. I definitely agree with what you guys had to say, and I think that wide receiver and quarterback really can be interchangeable depending on who falls to 17 and 48. So, I can see us taking a wide receiver at 17 and a center in like the third round, and then every other pick being defense this year. I was on the train of let's draft a big power back, but I mean, Tank Bigsby's been putting out some hype videos and he's looking pretty big. He looks like he's put on 10 or 15 pounds of just straight muscle. And people were like, oh, he's still holding the ball way away from his body. No, he's not. He's doing drills. He's going to have pads on, which add an extra couple inches. You guys never played football. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Bro's touching his pec with the ball every time he moves it. Like, relax. But yeah, no, I mean, I like it. I think any of our plans for the draft could work. I think that, I say this sparingly. I hope Balky lets less. I hope Balky lets less Doug Peterson take control. I hope Balky does a little more himself, honestly. Because as much as people want to say it, there are very solid players that have been in San Francisco since he left that played really well for a while. Eric Armstead is one of those guys. People like Balky. Players like Balky. He's had some really good contracts this offseason. We've been getting discounts on people that I thought would cost more money that we paid more, $20 to $30 million more for people 2 years ago that are of similar production. Like I talked about with Gabe Davis, we paid $30 million less for Gabe Davis in the maximum money than we paid for Christian Kirk when they had very similar production the year before they came to Jacksonville. So a lot to look at. Is there anything you guys want to hit on before we wrap this thing up?
Actually, yeah, I got a couple things.
Okay.
First thing I want to start with would be a question. Okay, so I know how you said you would run it, but let's just say hypothetically you are doing our draft. Okay, who is your overall 17 of all the guys you listed? Who's your 17 of everybody?
Of everyone I listed, of people I realistically think will be at 17, Brian Thomas Jr.
You think for sure, like in your mind, for sure, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a 17.
In my mind, he'll be there at 17.
Okay, solid. What about you, Randy?
Wishful thinking is Arnold, but truly to be there at 17, I'm sticking with corner. I'm gonna take a chance, and I'm gonna say Nate Wiggins because I feel like the three, Kool-Aid, Arnold, and Mitchell are gonna be gone. I just have that weird feeling they're gonna be gone, and Nate Wiggins is probably where I'm going.
Okay. For me, I think I'm I definitely agree with the Brian Thomas Jr. thing. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is definitely going to be there at 17. I think if that's a possibility, we get him. I can't say, though, that that's our number one position of need for me, but I do think that out of the players I listed, everyone I listed, I think that if he is available at 17, it's a no-brainer. He's got to come to Duval. And other than that, a couple other things I wanted to talk about would be
real quick. Eric responded as well. Eric said Drazon Newton out of Illinois, the D tackle. I think IDL was Eric's position, number one position in need.
Understandable. See, and I mean, I can't hate that either. I think, like you said, it's a very strong point. We all made plans for the draft that would definitely be an improvement to Duval. My next thing would have to be I did see that the city of Jacksonville and the Jaguars have confirmed that we are locked in. Our new stadium is coming.
Yes.
Like it's no longer, we're just talking about it. It's no longer like potential. It is locked in. It's still a good time bit away. My next part with that would be, where would you guys like to see us interim home field?
I got this one off the bat. I know there was talks with 3 different cities, and one of them was my hometown,
Daytona, baby.
Daytona Beach. Let's do it at the 500. It'll fit perfectly. Traffic's gonna be a bitch. I'll warn everybody about that. But I would love nothing more for the Jags to be home here for a bit, and season tickets. I don't care. I'll go.
I don't care how much I have to pay. I'm getting a custom Lightning McQueen jersey to wear to the Jaguars.
Damn right, dude. That would be so badass. If I just drive 10 minutes down to the Speedway, dude, I would love that.
Yeah, man. No, Daytona is actually my pick if we had to go somewhere. Because we talked to Daytona, we talked to Orlando, and where was the other spot?
Oh, I know Orlando was Camping World. Oh, damn.
I don't know.
I can't remember where else.
The third spot.
We're planning on playing in Gainesville in the Gator Stadium.
That's
we talked about playing in the Swamp, Orlando, or in Daytona. That's right.
No, not Gainesville. That's gross.
Gainesville.
I don't know. Camping World, yes.
Look, I've been to Doak Campbell, and this is not me being biased. I personally like the Swamp better than Doak Campbell. I think that my thing with Doak is it's just bleachers. Like it's not nice. Like you go under the bleachers and it's just bleachers, you know? Like I've been to both. I've been to a lot of stadiums. I like, I don't think Doak Campbell's a bad stadium. It's definitely not the Bounce House in UCF. I've been there. That shit's scary, bro. But I think the Swamp has more personality than Doak Campbell. And that's just because, again, it's built underground. You got the huge walls with the Swamp written on it, you know. But Doak's a nice stadium. I like the Swamp better.
Okay. I'm going Daytona Beach as well because I just want it to be close. That's all I care about.
I already got to drive, bro. I already got to drive.
Like, hey, that's a 10-minute drive for me, though.
Help me out. I'll come spend the night with Randy. Man.
Hey, you can crash here. Hey, that's fine. As long as we win, I'm gonna cuddle and mood. Don't worry.
Hey, let's go.
All right then.
All right, here we go.
If we lose, though, I'm gonna be on the ground, like trying to find a newspaper to put over me or something. So you can get a blanket for me. I know you're in Texas, Eric. Let's move it to Houston. Let's. No.
Yeah, Eric. Let's bring it to your hometown, Eric.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it said actually it will be a multi-year process to get the final adjustments and approval with budget and financial and building started. But the city of Jacksonville and Jaguars remain in lockstep to make this happen. We're still on the same page. It's still happening, and the ball is officially rolling.
Yeah, I know they said it would take 2 years if we play while they're doing it, or 1 year if we move for a season.
They also said that the tentative deal is expected in May. So we could be looking in May time to see what the deal actually is.
Hell yeah. That'd be a nice birthday present for me and you from the Jaguars.
Absolutely. My next thing. I cannot tell you the ungodly amount of, in my opinion, just off the wall people that would love to have seen us take the Brandon Ayuk trade offer from the 49ers. What the 49ers want for.
See, I was hopeful for that trade, but not that. Not the 17 and Zay. I think I told Isaiah I would have been okay with a second possibly and maybe Zay. I wouldn't be ecstatic. if we got him for, I don't know what I'm expecting out of it, but yeah, no, 17 and Zay, no, thank you.
Yeah,
and then we're gonna have to drop
just
a couple
48. Like if we gave him just 48, I'd be okay with that. If we gave him, we gave him 96 in Zay, I'd be okay with that. Or like maybe next year's second in Zay, but not a first round, not number 17 in Zay. That's definitely not worth it for a guy that, again, I know I gave you my take on it on Ayuk, and I think he could be good as a number one wide receiver potentially. But like my thing is, like, realistically speaking, he was the number 3 guy, if not number 4, for attention from a defense. Because you have Deebo Samuel, who's getting double teamed every play. They're bringing a safety and a corner on him almost every play. You got George Kittle, who is, this isn't technically in order. George Kittle, I mean, he's taking at least one linebacker to a linebacker and a safety every play whenever he takes out. And you got the number 2 threat on the team, if not the number 1 threat on the team, Christian McCaffrey. Yep. I'm putting Deebo and McCaffrey over him for the attention that they draw, and then him at 3 interchangeable with Kittle depending on the game. That's just, I'm not saying he needs them to get open. I just think that he definitely got open more because of how much attention they drew. And I'm not willing to give up a potential, I think Brian Thomas, Adonai Mitchell, Gabe Neighbors, like all those guys, I think they're sure things, in my opinion. I don't think you draft any of those guys, and unless they get injured, I don't think they have anything short than a solid career, 1,000 yards a year, as long as they're used right, and we can keep Trevor upright for more than 3 seconds in the backfield. But yeah, no, definitely too much for Ayuk, and I think people are like, oh, like, T Higgins, like we're gonna have to give up just if not more, and we're gonna have to pay him and we're gonna have to pay him more money.
Yeah,
I know Ayuk
won the biggest problem too with the Ayuk. Yeah, that was my biggest problem with Ayuk was not only did we give up too much. Ridley. Yeah, at that point, might as well just pay the guy. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is it's not really a discussion topic for per se. It's just I love the fact that Eric Armstead called out and said, give me some Duval-esque things I need to know. We hate the Titans. Noted. I love it. To all of you Titans fans, a special fuck you guys, okay? Just because I hate you for last year, all right? And now Eric Armstead also hates you, so tell Mayo to watch out and run. He should probably consider moving. And that's really – I just want to go ahead and tell you guys that. And then other than that, I just want to say welcome into all of our new subscribers, man. We grew a lot more in just 1 week off of one episode than I anticipated. I can't lie. Like we didn't make no 400 sub jump or anything, and we're still on the road to our first 100, but definite progress, man. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
Dude, you know how many giveaways I offered last year, and nobody came. That's okay, because we had to talk about the other fucking teams. Okay, we don't have to do that here. This is our channel. Jags fans, we're here for each other. We're not here to celebrate the other teams. I don't have to talk nice about them. I can talk as mean as I want, as long as YouTube doesn't think I'm being too mean. It's a good time. We're gonna be on Spotify, you guys. We're coming to Spotify, YouTube. We're gonna have links posted on X, Facebook. We're gonna be a lot of places. That's why I'm here. Chat, yes, sir. Chat dedicated to the Jags. That's what I'm talking about, man. And I think the bigger we get, we'll probably be able to, maybe start a little more of maybe a Facebook group or certain stuff, get our Jags fans rallied, baby. Let them know when we're going to games.
And then the more people we get, they can give show topic ideas. It'd be great.
Absolutely. And I told, in the Discord that we got, I told him, I was like, hey guys, if you want to come on, let me know. We've always got room for extra Jags fans. You got a camera and a mic. We'll get you on here. We'll talk to you. And I'm excited. Thanks again, guys, for coming on. Randy, Eric, y'all got anything else before we hop out of here?
I appreciate y'all bringing me in. I'm definitely going to make sure to put this on the Jags page as well. Feel free to put it wherever you want, Discord, whatnot. Brother. I appreciate it. It was a great time. I love talking Jags anytime, especially with
better
in real life. I have no sports fans that are friends. And so it's nice to come on here and talk to y'all and get it out instead of, talking to some random people over Instagram. It's cool to have face-to-face conversation with a team that I'm very passionate about and I can't wait to succeed with. I'm just so excited. So thank you.
Yeah. Amen.
Yes, sir. All right, guys.
I got to say, shout out my boy Cody. Shout out my boy Cody. My coworker. The idea of Spotify. He had a lot of good takes that me and him talked about at work. Gave me a few good ideas to rattle around in here. Hopefully that
you were teaming up on me with the Press Taylor stuff. I got you. You were getting.
Oh no! Wait, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm just going to go ahead and forewarn you. Because he's the guy he's one of the guys that I know that would like to get on the show at some point.
Yeah,
come on, have discussion with us. He's coming for you with your Press Taylor take. I'm
definitely
going to go ahead and let you know. Heads up, he's coming here with the Press Taylor take.
Hey, that's fine. He can watch this episode. He can see how reasonable of a young man I am.
Oh,
and he can still argue with me. But I'm going to come at him with love and peace and Jaguars love, and I'm going to roast the shit out of him because he's wrong. But no, I'm kidding.
No,
I can't wait to bring him on. Again, you guys, thanks for coming on the show. A big night. I think kind of similar to last time, hour and 15, hour 20 minutes here. I love that we can just come on here and talk to each other. I hope Jags fans, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for coming out. You guys make up the majority of this AFC South shows following. So let's get some big numbers. We got to pass the main show. Curtis, he might be a little mad about that. That's fine. Whatever. That's fine. Jaguar, we're the most popular anyways. We're the best team in the South. Last year was not a reflection of our best, and we will show that this year. We will be back on top, King's Court. But thanks for coming out, you guys. Go Jags and Duval.
Duval.
Uh-oh.
Duval.
He said, uh-oh.
Eric's saying Duval too down there. I know he is.
Oh, I know he's behind the screen. He's getting it down, son.
Thanks, you guys. Let's end it here. Good night.